Behind the pages of the official history of the Third Reich lurks a shadow, the mysterious Order of the Black Sun, an organization whose existence balances on the edge of historical fact and myth. It profoundly influenced the highest echelons of Nazi power. In a world where every symbol held sacred meaning, the Black Sun became an emblem of secret knowledge and mystical power. Within the concrete walls of bunkers and the marble halls of the Reich Chancellery, a cult emerged, uniting ancient Germanic beliefs with a twisted ideology of supremacy. Historians still debate the extent of this order's influence on the decision-making of the Nazi elite. Where do documented facts end and conspiracy theories begin? The Black Sun, a symbol laid into the floor of Wewelsburg Castle, is a silent witness to secret meetings and rituals. After Germany's defeat, the order's traces dissolved into the chaos of post-war Europe, only to reappear decades later in the symbolism of neo-Nazi movements worldwide. Some claim that followers of the cult found refuge in the icy deserts of Antarctica, taking their secret knowledge and technologies with them. The symbol of the Black Sun is rooted in the depths of centuries, long before it became a grim emblem of Nazi esotericism. Ancient Germanic tribes used solar symbols resembling a spoked wheel as signs of fertility and vital force. Archaeological finds attest to the presence of similar images on cult objects in Northern Europe as early as the Bronze Age. In Norse mythology, there was a concept of two suns, the visible one, giving light, and the invisible, black one, which shines in the underworld. This duality reflected the cyclical nature of existence, where death is inevitably replaced by rebirth. The Indo-Aryan tradition also contained symbols reminiscent of the swastika and the sun wheel. It was this connection with ancient Indo-European cultures that particularly attracted Germanic occultists of the early 20th century. They saw in these symbols proof of the common origin and spiritual kinship of the Aryan peoples. Guido von List and Jörg Lanz von Liebenfels, two key ideologues of Ariosophy, reinterpreted ancient runes and solar symbols, imbuing them with racial content. In their interpretation, the Black Sun became an invisible source of Aryan power, a mystical center of spiritual energy, accessible only to the chosen few. The Thule Society, founded in 1918, developed these ideas further. Its members believed in the existence of an ancient, highly developed civilization of Hyperboreans, from whom the ancestors of the Germans supposedly originated. The Black Sun in their cosmology was presented as the primary source of Aryan wisdom and power. The very image of the Black Sun, which later became famous, 12 zigzag runes radiating from a central circle, was created already during the Third Reich. This symbol combined several runic signs, including the Zig rune used by the SS, into a single composition resembling a sun wheel. Behind the scenes of the Third Reich's political theater lurked a powerful occult force that shaped the worldview of the Nazi elite. The Thule Society, founded in Munich in 1918, became the true cradle of National Socialist ideology. This secret brotherhood, named after a mythical northern land, united aristocrats, industrialists, and intellectuals fascinated by Ariosophy, an esoteric doctrine of Aryan racial supremacy. It was within Thule circles that ideas emerged which later formed the basis of Nazism's racial doctrine. Rudolf von Sebottendorf, the Society's founder, preached a synthesis of ancient Germanic myths, Eastern mysticism, and pseudoscientific theories about blood purity. Among the attendees of Thule meetings were Dietrich Eckart, who became a spiritual mentor to young Hitler, and Alfred Rosenberg, the future chief ideologist of the party. No less significant was the Vril Society, which focused on the search for a mysterious energy allegedly accessible only to representatives of the higher race. Followers of Vril practiced meditations through which they sought to establish contact with higher entities and gain access to the ancient knowledge of vanished civilizations. These esoteric groups created a fertile ground in which Nazi ideology flourished. They offered a mystical justification for the concept of Aryan supremacy, linking modern Germans with mythical ancestors, bearers of higher wisdom and power. This approach gave racism a quasi-religious dimension, transforming it from a political stance into a sacred doctrine. For young, ambitious Germans who had experienced the humiliation of defeat in World War I, these ideas proved incredibly appealing. The occult doctrine offered not just a political program, but also a new identity, belonging to an ancient order of the chosen, called to revive past greatness. Heinrich Himmler, the future Reichsführer SS, proved particularly receptive to these teachings. His fascination with ancient Germanic mysticism grew into an obsession that defined the structure and rituals of the SS. In his view, this organization was to become not merely a guard detachment, but a new knightly order with its own initiations, oaths, and secret knowledge. Behind the mask of a pedantic bureaucrat, Heinrich Himmler concealed the soul of an obsessed mystic. An outwardly unremarkable man in glasses, resembling more a schoolteacher than an architect of mass murder, he created the Third Reich's most terrifying organization upon a foundation of esoteric beliefs. His office in Berlin was crammed with books on astrology, ancient Germanic myths, and racial theories. On his desk always lay a copy of the Edda, a collection of Norse sagas, which the Reichsführer considered a sacred text of Aryan wisdom. Himmler believed he was the reincarnation of the medieval king Henry the Fowler, and often spent hours in meditation, attempting to establish contact with his ancient predecessor. At night, he recorded his dreams, searching in them for signs and omens to make important decisions. Astrologers and mediums had access to him, while many high-ranking officials waited for audiences for months. It was Himmler who transformed the SS from a mere guard detachment into a mystical order, modeled after medieval knightly fraternities. Every SS man had to prove Aryan descent back to 1750 and underwent complex initiation rituals. Marriage ceremonies for SS officers were conducted according to a special pagan rite, with the lighting of sacred fires and vows before ancient symbols. The Reichsführer personally designed the SS uniform, imbuing it with occult symbolism. The Sig runes, used in the emblem, symbolized solar power and victory. The black uniform reflected a connection to the otherworldly and ancient Germanic cults. Himmler paid particular attention to the training of the officer corps. In Wewelsburg Castle, which he transformed into the order's center, high-ranking SS officers studied not only military affairs, but also esoteric practices. In a special hall with 12 columns, where the black sun mosaic was laid on the floor, secret meetings were held. 12 chosen officers, like the Knights of the Round Table, gathered around an oak table for mystical ceremonies. Himmler was convinced that the Aryan race possessed special psychic abilities, lost due to blood mixing. To study these supernatural capabilities, he created the Ahnenerbe Society, Ancestral Heritage, which funded expeditions to Tibet, Iceland, and other places associated with ancient cults. Researchers sought the Holy Grail, the Spear of Longinus, and other artifacts which, in the Reichsführer's opinion, could give the Nazis a mystical advantage in the war. In the heart of Westphalia stands Wewelsburg Castle, a triangular fortress transformed by Heinrich Himmler into the mystical center of the Third Reich. This 17th-century medieval castle was acquired by the SS in 1934 and extensively reconstructed, befitting the ambitions of the Reichsfuhrer. Himmler envisioned it not merely as a building, but as the mystical core of a new world order, a kind of Germanic Camelot. The castle's north tower, according to Himmler's plans, was to become the center of the Aryan world. It is here, on the tower's lower floor, that the famous Obergruppensaal is located, a circular hall with 12 columns and niches. In the center of the marble floor lies a mosaic, 12 zigzagging runes radiating from a black center, forming the symbol of the Black Sun. This hall was intended for the highest leadership of the SS. 12 Obergruppenführers, like Knights of the Round Table, gathered here for secret meetings and rituals. Beneath the hall was a chamber called, quote, a place for venerating fallen heroes. Here, according to some accounts, ceremonies were held to commemorate deceased SS officers, whose names were engraved on the walls. The coats of arms of high-ranking SS officers adorned the castle walls, and after their deaths, these coats of arms were to be burned in a special room. Wewelsburg's architecture combined medieval elements with Nordic motifs. Sundials, runes, ancient Germanic symbols were integrated into the castle's design. Every detail carried a sacred meaning in accordance with Himmler's esoteric beliefs. The rituals conducted in the castle are shrouded in mystery. It is known that high-ranking SS officers participated in initiation ceremonies, meditations before the symbol of the Black Sun, and the study of ancient runic texts. Sessions of clairvoyance and astrological calculations were performed in special rooms. Some researchers claim that ancient artifacts, collected by Ahnenerbe expeditions, were stored in the castle's dungeons. Himmler planned to transform the entire area around the castle into a massive complex, an SS city with administrative buildings, schools, and temples. The war prevented the realization of these grandiose plans. In the shadow of the scientific institutes of the Third Reich operated the Ahnenerbe Society, ancestral heritage, created on Himmler's initiative in 1935. Officially, this organization was engaged in the study of ancient Germanic history and culture, but behind the academic facade lay occult goals. Hundreds of scientists, archaeologists, anthropologists, linguists, historians were involved in the work of the Ahnenerbe. Many of them were convinced Nazis, others simply could not refuse generous funding and the opportunity to continue research during wartime. Ahnenerbe expeditions were sent to the most remote corners of the world. In the mountains of Tibet, they searched for traces of an ancient Aryan civilization, allegedly possessing supernatural abilities. In Finland, they studied runes and shamanic practices. In Iraq, they excavated ancient Sumerian cities, hoping to find confirmation of the theory of the northern origin of all high cultures. Special attention was paid to the search for mystical artifacts. The spear of Longinus, with which Christ was pierced, the Holy Grail, magical runes, all these objects, according to Himmler, could give the Nazis a supernatural advantage in the war. A special department existed within the Ahnenerbe for the study of human paranormal abilities. Scientists conducted experiments on telepathy, clairvoyance, and psychokinesis, using both mediums and concentration camp prisoners. The results of these inhuman experiments were meticulously documented and reported personally to Himmler. Linguistic research was also conducted under the guidance of the Ahnenerbe. Scientists tried to reconstruct the proto-language of the Aryans, studying Sanskrit, Old Icelandic, and other Indo-European languages. They believed that certain sound combinations possessed magical power and could be used in rituals. The anthropological research of the Ahnenerbe gained particularly sinister notoriety. In concentration camps, skulls and skeletons of representatives of different peoples were collected for the scientific justification of racial theory. These collections were to become the basis for the future Museum of Extinct Races, which was planned to open after Germany's final victory. In the mystical heart of the Third Reich, behind the walls of official ceremonies, sacraments transpired that transformed the SS from a paramilitary organization into a true esoteric order. SS initiation rituals began with an oath of loyalty, not only to the Führer, but also to the ancient gods of Germany. By torchlight, under the open night sky, recruits swore allegiance on a rune-adorned sword, promising fidelity to their last drop of blood. The symbolism of the SS was meticulously designed by Himmler, taking into account the occult meaning of each element. The double Sig rune, which became the emblem of the organization, symbolized solar energy and victory. The black uniform reflected a connection with chthonic forces, with the invisible black sun, the hidden source of Aryan power. Special significance was attached to full moons and solstices. On these days, elaborate ceremonies using ancient runic formulas and meditations were held in Wewelsburg Castle. High-ranking SS officers gathered in the Obergruppenhalle, forming a circle over the symbol of the Black Sun, and performed rituals of blood awakening, a mystical connection with the spirit of ancestors. The marriage ceremonies of SS officers also had little in common with traditional Christian weddings. The newlyweds exchanged vows before a sacred fire, drank mead from a common chalice, and received the blessing of a senior officer acting as a priest. Each bride received a ring with runes and an instruction about the sacred mission of bearing pure-blooded offspring. SS funeral rituals were designed as a direct alternative to Christian rites. The body of a fallen officer was cremated, and the ashes were placed in an urn with runic symbols. During the ceremony, excerpts from the Edda and other ancient Germanic texts speaking of the immortality of the warrior's soul were recited. Especially mysterious were the rituals conducted by the inner circle of the SS, the Knights of the Black Sun. These 12 chosen officers, close to Himmler, practiced meditations on ancient runes, attempting to activate hidden psychic abilities. They believed they could establish contact with higher entities, ancient gods, or representatives of a superdeveloped Aryan civilization. In 1938, the German vessel Schwabenland set sail for the shores of Antarctica. Officially, the expedition pursued scientific goals and the search for territories for whaling. But behind the scientific facade lay other tasks connected with the mystical quests of the Black Sun Order. German researchers mapped a significant part of the coast, naming this territory New Swabia, in honor of the mythical ancestral homeland of the Aryans. It was here, according to esoteric theories, that entrances to the underworld, Agartha or Shambhala, described in ancient texts, might be located. The hollow earth theory, popular among the occultists of the Third Reich, asserted that our planet is hollow inside, with an inner surface suitable for life, and its own source of light, an internal black sun. Antarctica, as the last unexplored continent, seemed an ideal place to search for an entrance to this underworld. According to some accounts, the expedition discovered cave systems in the mountains with signs of geothermal activity, oases of warmth amidst eternal ice. These findings fueled fantasies about underground civilizations and possible refuges. When Germany's defeat became inevitable, rumors emerged of submarines heading to Antarctica with valuable cargo and high-ranking Nazis on board. Post-war myths about Base 211, a secret refuge built by the Germans under the Antarctic ice, became widespread. According to these legends, followers of the Black Sun created an entire underground city beneath the ice shield, with advanced technologies, including disc-shaped aircraft, flying saucers. The strange behavior of American Admiral Richard Byrd, who led a large military expedition to Antarctica immediately after the war, only added fuel to the fire of conspiracy theories. Why did a scientific mission require 13 ships, an aircraft carrier, and weaponry? What caused the expedition to unexpectedly curtail its work and return ahead of schedule? The silence of official sources spawned many speculations about a possible clash with remaining Nazi forces, or even with some ancient civilization, guardians of the secrets of the Black Sun. In January 1947, the American fleet, commanded by Admiral Richard Byrd, set sail for the shores of Antarctica. Officially, the mission was named Operation High Jump and pursued scientific research objectives. However, the scale of the expedition cast doubt on its purely scientific nature. 13 ships, including the aircraft carrier Philippine Sea, a submarine, 2 destroyers, and over 4,000 personnel. Such forces seemed excessive for a regular polar expedition. What were the Americans looking for among the Antarctic ice just a year and a half after the end of World War II? According to the official version, the operation was intended to test the feasibility of establishing a permanent base in Antarctica and to test military equipment in extreme cold conditions. However, there is evidence that Byrd received a secret assignment to verify information about German bases on the 6th continent. The expedition unexpectedly concluded 6 months ahead of schedule. Upon his return, Admiral Byrd gave an interview to the Chilean newspaper El Mercurio, where he mentioned enemy fighters capable of flying from pole to pole at incredible speed. These words, if indeed spoken, generated a wave of speculation about Americans encountering the secret technologies of the followers of the Order of the Black Sun. According to the most widespread theory, the Nazi elite, foreseeing defeat in the war, had made a refuge in Antarctica. Type XX-1 submarines, which possessed revolutionary autonomy for their time, allegedly transported scientists, SS officers, and advanced technologies there. Beneath the thick ice, utilizing geothermal sources, the Germans built an underground complex, Base 211, where they continued the development of Wunderwaffe, miracle weapons, including disc-shaped anti-gravity aircraft. These machines, named Haunebu and Vril, according to conspiracy theorists, were created based on the esoteric knowledge of the Order of the Black Sun and technologies obtained from extraterrestrial civilizations. It was with these that Byrd's expedition planes allegedly clashed. Historians, however, point to the lack of documentary evidence for these theories. Most of the evidence is based on dubious sources, often anonymous or published decades after the events described. In the quiet library of the Chilean embassy in Switzerland, amidst volumes of diplomatic correspondence, one of the most enigmatic doctrines of the post-war world was born. Miguel Serrano, an aristocratic Chilean diplomat with a penetrating gaze, was crafting a new chapter in the history of esoteric Nazism, a teaching he himself termed esoteric Hitlerism. Hailing from an influential family, Serrano received a brilliant education and, in his youth, became fascinated with Eastern spiritual practices. His travels to India, where he interacted with Hindu mystics, laid the groundwork for the synthesis he would later offer to the world. In his key works, The Golden Chain and The Last Avatar, Serrano developed the concept that Adolf Hitler was not merely a political leader, but the embodiment of an ancient Aryan deity who came into the world to fight against the forces of darkness and chaos. According to Serrano, the Führer did not perish in the Berlin bunker, but transitioned to another dimension, from where he continues to lead a secret struggle for the purification of the world. The Black Sun occupies a central place in Serrano's doctrine. This invisible luminary, the source of the mystical power of the Hyperboreans, an ancient Aryan race possessing supernatural abilities. Unlike the visible sun that nourishes the physical world, the Black Sun nourishes the spirit of the chosen, endowing them with secret knowledge and power. Serrano integrated elements of Tantric Buddhism, alchemy, and ancient Germanic beliefs into his doctrine. He asserted that true Aryans could transform their physical nature through special spiritual practices, achieving immortality and superhuman capabilities. Antarctica holds a special place in Serrano's teachings. According to his version, it is there, beneath the ice shield, that the entrance to Shambhala is hidden, a mystical refuge for the highest initiates of the Order of the Black Sun. There, in underground cities, ancient knowledge and technologies inaccessible to the uninitiated are preserved. The influence of Serrano's ideas on modern neo-Nazi mysticism is hard to overestimate. His books, translated into many languages, have become a kind of Bible for those seeking an esoteric justification for ultra-right ideology. The symbolism of the Black Sun, popularized by Serrano, is now widely used by neo-Nazi groups around the world as a secret sign of belonging to the initiated. In post-war Europe, amidst the ruins of the Third Reich, the symbolism of the Black Sun did not disappear, but retreated into the shadows, only to re-emerge with new vigor decades later. Already in the 1950s, former SS officers who had escaped the Nuremberg trials began to form secret societies that preserved the esoteric traditions of the order. Wilhelm Landig, an Austrian writer and former SS member, became one of the key figures of this movement. In his trilogy, Gotland, he described the secret bases of the Black Sun followers in the Andes and Antarctica, laying the foundation for the modern myth of surviving Nazi mystics. A special role in the preservation and dissemination of Black Sun ideas was played by the Horbiger Circle of Friends, a society that studied the world ice theory, popular among the Nazi elite. Members of this circle claimed to possess secret knowledge passed down to them by high-ranking initiates of the Third Reich. In the 1960s, the Vienna Working Community for the Study of Ancient History emerged in Austria, whose members adapted the esoteric concepts of Nazism for a new generation. They created a complex cosmology, at the center of which was the Black Sun as a source of Aryan power and wisdom. The transmission of knowledge occurred through a system of initiations, reminiscent of Masonic rituals. Neophytes were gradually introduced to increasingly secret aspects of the doctrine, progressing from the study of runes and Aryan symbolism to complex meditative practices and magical rituals. The 1970s and 1980s became a period of active dissemination of these ideas among European neo-Nazi groups. In France, the New Right movement, led by Alain de Benoit, intellectualized the concepts of Aryan mysticism, presenting them as an alternative spiritual tradition of Europe. In Germany and Austria, the Black Sun symbol became a secret identifier for initiates, appearing on amulets, in the design of underground publications, and on the tattoos of members of far-right organizations. Esoteric traditions of the Black Sun were particularly actively revived in Scandinavia, where they intertwined with the resurgence of interest in ancient Germanic religion. Asatru. Norwegian and Swedish neo-pagans adapted the symbolism and rituals associated with the Black Sun, integrating them into their religious practices. With the fall of the Berlin Wall and the opening of borders, these ideas penetrated Eastern Europe and the territory of the former Soviet Union, finding fertile ground among young people seeking an alternative to both communist ideology and Western liberalism. The Black Sun symbol became popular among Russian and Ukrainian ultra-nationalists, often in combination with elements of Slavic paganism. In the 1990s, the commercialization and popularization of Black Sun symbolism occurred through music, literature, and the Internet. Neo-folk and black metal bands used these symbols in their work, attracting a new audience to the esoteric concepts of neo-Nazism. In the 21st century, the Black Sun symbol has transcended historical research, becoming a recognizable emblem of modern far-right movements worldwide. This ancient runic emblem, once adorning the floor of Wewelsburg Castle, now appears on demonstrators' flags, in the manifestos of lone wolf terrorists, and on radical groups' internet forums. Particularly alarming was the use of the Black Sun symbol by the Christchurch terrorist, who, in March 2019, carried out attacks on mosques in New Zealand. In his manifesto, published before the attack, the Black Sun symbol held a central place, linking modern far-right terrorism with the esoteric traditions of Nazism. At marches of neo-Nazi organizations in Europe and America, the Black Sun regularly appears on participants' flags, patches, and tattoos. In Ukraine, the symbol was observed on the chevrons of some volunteer battalions, which sparked sharp controversy in international media. In Russia, the emblem is popular among radical nationalist groups, often in combination with runic symbolism. In the virtual space, the Black Sun has become a kind of password for far-right communities. On closed forums and in messengers, this symbol is used as a marker of belonging to a certain ideology, without attracting the attention of the uninitiated, unlike more well-known Nazi symbols. Experts on extremism note that the popularity of the Black Sun symbol among modern far-right groups is due to its relative obscurity and the absence of direct legal prohibitions in most countries. Unlike the swastika, the use of which is restricted in many states, the Black Sun allows for the expression of the same ideas without formally breaking the law. Of particular concern is the growing popularity of esoteric Nazism among young people. Through music, video games, and internet memes, Black Sun symbolism penetrates youth culture, often presented as an element of aesthetics or ancient European spirituality, without mentioning its connection to Nazi ideology. Researchers note that modern adherents of the Black Sun cult often combine traditional Nazism with elements of paganism, occultism, and even Eastern spiritual practices, creating an eclectic ideology attractive to those seeking an alternative to both traditional religions and modern liberalism. In the world of mass culture, the mythology of the Black Sun has found fertile ground for dissemination, transforming from a little-known esoteric symbol into a recognizable element of pop culture. Hollywood blockbusters, such as the Indiana Jones franchise, have popularized the image of Nazi occultists seeking ancient artifacts of power. The film Captain America: The First Avenger introduced the organization Hydra, a fictional analog of the Order of the Black Sun, combining Nazi ideology with the search for supernatural forces. In literature, the image of a secret Nazi order has become central to an entire subgenre of alternative history and mystical thrillers. Novels by James Rollins, Steve Barry, and Andy McDermott use motifs of Nazi occultism and the Black Sun as the basis for exciting adventure plots. Guillermo del Toro's popular Pan's Labyrinth series includes elements of this mythology, giving it a dark, fairy tale atmosphere. The video game industry is particularly active in exploiting this theme. The Wolfenstein, Call of Duty, and Sniper Elite series regularly include storylines about secret Nazi projects involving occult forces. In the game Wolfenstein: The New Order, the player encounters an alternative reality where the Nazis, using ancient technologies, won World War II. The music scene has also not been left out. Neo-folk and industrial bands such as Death in June, Boyd Rice, and Von Thronstall actively use the aesthetics and symbolism of the Black Sun in their work, creating a romanticized aura of mystery and forbidden knowledge around it. What makes the myth of the Black Sun so appealing to mass culture? First and foremost, its ambivalence. This symbol balances on the edge of historical fact and fantasy, allowing authors to freely interpret and develop its meaning. The aesthetics of Nazi occultism, with its black uniforms, mysterious symbols, and Gothic castles, are visually striking and instantly recognizable. Furthermore, the myth of the Black Sun offers a convenient plot element: absolute evil against which heroes can fight. Unlike historical Nazis whose crimes are too real and painful, their mystical versions become almost fairy tale villains, simplified and distanced from historical reality. In the Internet age, conspiracy theories about the Black Sun have gained new life. Numerous YouTube channels, podcasts, and forums are dedicated to discussing the alleged secrets of this order. Documentaries of questionable reliability, mixing historical facts with outright fabrications, gather millions of views, forming a distorted view of the real history of Nazi occultism. It's time to separate historical reality from the myths surrounding the Order of the Black Sun. Professional historians studying the Third Reich point to a fundamentally important fact. There are no reliable documents confirming the existence of an organization with that name in Nazi Germany. The Black Sun symbol on the floor of Wewelsburg Castle indeed exists, but its meaning and origin remain a subject of debate. Historian Nicholas Goodrick Clark, one of the leading specialists in Nazi occultism, notes that the term Black Sun was not used in SS documents and became associated with the Wewelsburg mosaic only after the war. The symbol itself is not an ancient runic sign, but a design created during the Third Reich period. Many elements of the Black Sun mythology were constructed in the post-war decades by authors such as Wilhelm Landig and Miguel Serrano, who mixed historical facts with their own fantasies. As for the Nazi Antarctic expeditions, researchers confirm that in 1938–39, the German vessel Schwabenland indeed explored a part of Antarctica named New Swabia. However, the expedition's goals were scientific and economic, without any mystical subtext. No evidence of the construction of underground bases or shelters has been found. Admiral Byrd's Operation High Jump was also primarily a military training mission in the context of the nascent Cold War. The widespread claim about his interview with a Chilean newspaper mentioning flying machines is not supported by original sources. The mystical practices and rituals of the SS, though they existed, were significantly more mundane than depicted in popular literature. Himmler was indeed fascinated by occultism and ancient Germanic mysticism, but many of his ideas did not find support among the senior leadership of the Nazi Party. Hitler, in particular, was skeptical of the Reichsfuhrer SS's occult interests. Most of the secret knowledge and esoteric practices attributed to the Order of the Black Sun are, in fact, post-war constructs created to romanticize and mystify the Nazi past. This mythology proved particularly attractive to neo-Nazi groups seeking a spiritual justification for their ideology. It is important to understand that an obsession with such myths is not harmless. Behind the mystical facade lies an attempt to rehabilitate Nazism, presenting it not as a criminal ideology, but as secret knowledge accessible only to the elect. That is why a critical analysis of such concepts is necessary not only for historical science, but also for combating modern extremism. Myths about the Black Sun do not disappear, despite decades of historical research and debunking. Why does the image of a secret Nazi order continue to stir minds? Perhaps this lies in a deep human need for the mystification of evil, a desire to see in Nazism something more than just a criminal ideology, some esoteric force accessible only to the chosen few. Such a view is psychologically more comfortable than recognizing the banal nature of evil committed by ordinary people. The danger of these myths is obvious. The romanticization of Nazi occultism creates fertile ground for the rehabilitation of the Third Reich's ideology itself. The Black Sun becomes a symbol of resistance to the system, a sign of belonging to a circle of initiates possessing secret knowledge. Young people in particular are vulnerable, seeking an alternative to the modern world and attracted by the aesthetics of the forbidden. In the era of post-truth and informational chaos, myths about the Black Sun find fertile ground. The internet is overflowing with pseudo-documentary films, articles, and forums where historical facts are mixed with fiction beyond recognition. Critical thinking becomes the only defense against such manipulations. The rise of far-right sentiments in the modern world gives this topic special relevance. From Europe to America, the symbol of the Black Sun appears in nationalist marches, in the manifestos of lone terrorists, on the pages of extremist websites. Behind the mystical facade hides the same ideology of hatred and division. Studying the history of Nazi occultism makes sense only with a strict separation of facts and myths. Yes, Himmler was fascinated by mysticism. Yes, the SS was modeled after a knightly order. But between these facts and fantasies of an omnipotent secret society lies an abyss. The lessons of the past teach us vigilance. When politics begins to rely on mysticism, when the rational gives way to the esoteric, when science is replaced by pseudo-scientific theories about the superiority of one group over another, society finds itself on a dangerous path. The Black Sun remains a grim symbol of how easily the human mind succumbs to the temptation of the irrational, how thin the line is between the search for spirituality and fanaticism. The history of this symbol is a warning to all of us about the need to maintain a critical view and not allow myths, however appealing they may seem, to overshadow historical truth.